John Hook's Newsmaker Saturday starts now.
Thanks for joining us for Newsmaker Saturday. Later in the program, we will talk to an expert on the implosion of the Pac-12 conference and ASU and U of A now part of the Big 12. But first, Democratic Congressman Raúl Grijalva, kind enough to join me on the program, 20 years in Congress and now representing District 7. The district stretches along the Mexico-United States border, includes the western third of Tucson, parts of Yuma and Nogales, as well as Avondale and Tolleson, and a little bit of Metro Phoenix. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
We go back a long way, back to your days on the Tucson Unified School District Board.
Yes, and you know how the circle turns, and I was a 21-year-old school board member when I met you.
Yeah.
And here we are, you know, 35, 37 years later, and still involved in this public service for myself, and your career has been a very good career in terms of journalism and newscasting. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
Small world.
Yeah, it's two grizzled veterans. All right, Congressman, your district now, District 7, that runs, I think, 350 miles of border. Am I right about that on your district? You have got maybe more border than anybody.
We have all the border communities. Added during redistricting was Douglas, which is border community, Naco, and including San Luis and Nogales and Lukeville and Sasabe and those areas. Then, yeah, we have the whole line on the border in terms of the area we represent, and which makes me really the only member of the delegation that has the entire border by himself.
Congressman, what do we do about that border security? I mean, your father worked in the Bracero program, as I remember. I mean, he was coming and going across the border. Was it better then when people just came and went? Now we've got just, it seems like it's chaotic, and I can't imagine anybody thinks this is a good idea.
No, I think it's a broken system, and that's been this issue has been the most complex, vexing, and difficult issue that I have dealt with. We make an incremental step, then we go backwards. The effort has been for the last 15, almost 16 years, and that includes Democrats and Republicans as president, has been an enforcement mentality, and that's become the key word. And then it intensified after the 2016 election, and it's been about enforcement, and it's been about what do we do to control. The problem has been that there are factors that we don't control in terms of migration, whether it is poverty, whether it's feeling persecution, religious or political, whether it is the issue of climate that is forcing people to come to the border to seek entrance, to seek asylum. That pressure continues, and it's not being abated. And I think that we have never dealt with the root cause of why migration and how we can work with countries to make sure that we're providing the kinds of investments for their communities to be able to take care of themselves, whether it's Guatemala, Nicaragua, Central America being the big exporter of migrants to our border now.
But along with this, we've got 1.2 million so-called Godaways. We don't know who they are. They have not been processed at all. These are people getting into the interior. We know nothing about their potential intentions. That is somewhat troubling, is it not?
It's troubling, and the security that we need, 70+% of all the apprehensions and interactions in terms of preventing the flow of illegal substances, i.e. fentanyl, drugs, and others, happens at the port of entry. That's where the security, and that's where the processing, and that's where the resources and staffing have been lacking. And in order to do a better job at that secure part, you have to invest in those ports of entry. You have to invest in its technology. We're not doing that. And in terms of focusing on the organized syndicates and crimes, cartels or otherwise, that are the principal responsible for the smuggling, whether it be people, but primarily now drugs, opiates in particular, has to be a focus, a central focus of enforcement. And I don't see that. And I haven't seen it because the issue is to always respond politically to what the politics of that
I've been
day
curious.
are.
I've been curious.
Politics right now is very negative about any efforts to try to reform the law or to try to refocus how we do security.
I've been curious about something. You know, I've been trying to understand why the Biden administration would adopt what essentially is an open border policy during President Biden's 2.5 years now. And I started to wonder, are the Democrats thinking we're going to let this fly and force Republicans to the table to deal with so-called, quote-unquote, whatever it means, comprehensive immigration reform?
No,
is there a method to the madness here?
I don't think that's a strategy. If it is a strategy, it's a stupid strategy. And I don't think it's a strategy. I don't think it's an open border issue. And, you know, the efforts to seal the border on the part of some of the extremists in the Republican caucus, plus during the Trump administration, didn't work. The wall didn't work.
Well, the numbers were down under the Trump administration.
And the asylum seekers and refugee seekers that are pressing the border now, those, like I said, are consequences of things that we cannot control, but that we can deal with in their home countries and in other areas. But to say that it's an open border situation is buying into a narrative that is patently.
Let me ask you, I've got to ask you about what happened this week. We got this extraordinary picture of a former president, current candidate for president, booked and mugshotted down in Atlanta. I just want to get your reaction. Is there a point when these indictments, no president in American history, former president, had ever been indicted? Now it's number 4 for Donald Trump. Is there a danger that you desensitize the public to this stuff and they start to rally around a guy that a lot of folks were walking away from?
I think your question would have been my response. The more we normalize the situation, the more the narrative from Trump and the other 18 and others continues to be that we're being persecuted, that we did nothing wrong, and that the rule of law does not apply equally to everyone. As long as those things continue to happen, then your admonition and your concern is absolutely true. Once you normalize it, then the divisions that we see in this country become deeper. The sadness of what we're watching historically is that in this democracy of ours, no one is above the law, and that is sacrosanct, and we're seeing it played out. Unfortunately, is a former president of the United States, and it is a sad chapter, as are what happened January 6th, a horrific and sad chapter, and all that is what has put us in this very divisive and divided country of ours right now. And I hope it ends. My work is toward that end, to make sure it ends, that we return to a place where democracy and the voting rights are protected, and that the will of the people come 2024 establishes the identity of this democracy and of ours in a very direct way. That election is going to be critical.
I think you were on the floor of the House. I believe you were finishing speaking, certifying Arizona's votes when people started banging on the doors of the House chambers. You called the attack one of the darkest and most shameful days in our republic, and you largely blamed Donald Trump for inciting it. But curiously, Congressman, Special Counsel Jack Smith charged Donald Trump with a lot of stuff, conspiracy to obstruct, defraud, but he did not charge him with inciting an insurrection.
But I think what Smith has, Special Counsel has charged him with, is significant. The RICO investigation in Atlanta is significant, and all the connections that go to that. And part and parcel is what happened January 6th that kicked off what we see now is a dark chapter in our history. I was debating Gosar. Gosar didn't want to count the votes from Arizona, and I was debating him about the fact that election has been certified and it needs to be counted. And then we heard a shot, and we were all evacuated from the floor. But we came back 4 or 5 hours later and certified the election. But the point remains that that was a dark chapter, and the fact that he is not being held personally responsible for inciting is a decision as to what is going. I think the charges he has in front of him from Jack Smith are very, very serious.
One more thing, and I'll move on from this. Do you think Attorney General Chris Mays should go down the road of also charging Donald Trump? Or do you think, again, you run the risk from the Democratic point of view of piling on and driving Donald Trump into the arms of Republicans who may have been starting to look for other alternatives? Will they rally around a guy that they may have largely started to want to walk away from?
I would hope that the facts, that what happened with the January 6th commission that no longer exists, and that overview, that the American people look at the facts and look at the process that's unfolding before us. I have no advice for our Attorney General here in Arizona. I just think politically that at some point it becomes superfluous. It becomes what's going on in Atlanta is the same thing on the electorate. What's going on in Arizona in terms of those false electors, those are consequences that are already being talked about in Atlanta. I don't know if you pursue it with the same energy that is being done in Georgia, but I don't know if that is really a necessary step. To hold these people accountable for their lies and for their conspiracy is important. But I think right now, what's also important is to let what's out there now play itself out.
Congressman Raúl Grijalva, I always appreciate you coming on the program. It's good to see you again.
John.
We go way back, and I know you're running again. Quick thing, do you think 20 years is too long? Do you think there is a point where you say, maybe it's time?
There is a point. Of course there is, in any profession and any work I do. But like I said, 2024 is a defining year. It's about the identity of this country. And I have been privileged to much of history in my time there. And I also have been privileged to seeing these consequential moments, and we're in one. And it's about our democracy, and it's about the challenges like climate and other things that we're confronting. And I would like to participate in those for at least 2 more years.
Okay. And we're going to have you back on the program. Deal?
Got it.
Got it. Good. Raúl Grijalva, Congressman, the senior congressman of the delegation now in Arizona.